Good morning, Chavra. We're going to learn today's Tanya, which is in the middle of chapter 38. A beautiful Sunday morning, the 4th of Nissan. We're on page 64 in the Chayenu. In today's lesson, just as the four distinct categories of life, mineral, plant, animal, and human, vary greatly in the degree of vitality they possess, obviously, a rock, a grain of salt, that's, they don't seem to have much life to them. Whereas birds soar in the sky, animals, and especially humans, are full of energy and life. So is the contrast of a mitzvah done merely in action versus one infused with intent and meaning. If a person does a mitzvah without kavanah, it's still a mitzvah. It still exists, but it doesn't have much life to it. In the physical body of a living creature and in an absolute inanimate being, such as a stone or earth, as I mentioned, a grain of salt, in which no life or spirituality are apparent. Since they lack the power of growth, they even lack the power of growth. The ray of divine creative power is in a state of unparalleled contraction. God is there, but is so hidden and so contracted that there's seemingly no energy, no life to grow. So minute is the life force within these inanimate beings that they even lack the power of growth. In vegetables, vegetation, the ray is not so greatly contracted. There's phenomenal growth. And not only that, you could take a tiny little seed from one plant, plant it in the ground, and then you get another plant. It's unbelievable. It's like miraculous. In general, all these things in the world are divided into four categories: mineral, vegetable, animal, and man. When we say man, it's the translation is actually midaber, one who speaks, the speaker. Keneged daled oisis shel shem havaya. Keneged daled oisis shem havaya baruch hu, shem amenu mushpoim. The four general things in the world are corresponding to the four letters of the divine name, Yud Kei Vav Kei. Each of these four categories receives its vitality from one of the four letters. Just as the illumination and the flow of vitality found in the mineral and the vegetable categories bears no comparison or likeness to the life and energy clothed in animals and man, since in the latter two categories it is clearly apparent that they're alive when it comes to animals and man. You're not sure, you see a tree, you're not sure, is it still alive or is it dead? Excuse me. Shebekulon oid echad shave mi b'chninas hester panim melubesh bilvush echad b'chulon shehu levush nega. Although in all four categories, the light of Hashem is the same in terms of concealment, meaning in all four categories, the inner aspect of the divine light is concealed equally. And in all four categories, the light is clothed in the same garments, namely the garment meaning the veil of Noiga. Hence, in none of these categories is it apparent that their vitality is actually from godliness. When you look at a person, can you see godliness in him? No. When you look at a plant, can you see godliness? When you look at an animal, a bird, a bug, a big bear, you can't see godliness in him, just like you can't see it in a rock. Kach ein erech dimyoin klal bein haaras v'hamshachas erin seif baruch hu shehu pnimius ursenis baruch b'li hester panim ulevush klal. Similarly, there's no comparison or likeness between the illumination and flow of the light of Hashem, meaning the inner aspect of Hashem's will without concealment and countenance, and with no garment whatsoever, as it radiates in and is enclosed within the mitzvahs consisting of action. So too, whether they're actual mitzvahs or the mitzvahs that are done through speech, where even though, as we explained many times, you're doing an action, with your lips and your mouth and everything else, but we're not going to consider that for argument's sake an action that you use your hands and your feet and your body for. Okay. Shu nechshav k'ma'aseh mamish k'niskaleo, which is regarded, okay, as mentioned above, when performed with kavanah. So we don't see really the difference of a mitzvah when it's done with kavanah, without kavanah. The illumination of the Ein Sof found in these mitzvahs bears no likeness or comparison with the superior illumination and flow of the blessed Ein Sof, the light of Hashem, radiant and clothed in the kavanah of the mitzvahs of action, meaning sha'adam iskavin ba'as yasan. Meaning man's intention to attach himself to Hashem by fulfilling his will as expressed in the mitzvah, since Hashem and his will are one. When it comes to having concentration and meditation and focus during prayer, during davening, the recital of Shema and its blessings and other blessings, where through one's kavanah in them, he attaches his thoughts and his intellect to God. So what does this mean? Action-based mitzvahs are the will of Hashem. But taking a moment when performing a commandment to contemplate that you're performing the commandment to connect to Hashem, that's like the infused life of the commandment of the mitzvah. Now, maybe from outside looking in, you can't always see the difference, but we know, we understand. As I mentioned before, it's like you're eating the food. It's the same food, but one has flavor and one doesn't have flavor. But a lot of times, it's just from the outside looking in, you can't see the difference. Although, well, let me back up. You could clearly see the difference between life in a rock and life in an animal, but you can't necessarily see the godliness in it. So you could sense that an action-based mitzvah could be a lot more. You just feel it, like putting on tefillin is a lot more holy than, separating a milk and meat, or giving a tithe from the field. However, you still can't see the godliness in it. But knowing that should make you realize that, yes, there is a difference, although it's a subtle difference, and we want to see the godliness in it. So realize and recognize that when there is kavanah behind it, that is the life, that is the chayus of the mitzvah, and it's like giving it the ability to soar. And we'll soon see that it's also compared to like the wings of a bird. It's still a bird if it doesn't have wings, but it gives it its characteristic, and it gives it its flavor, so to speak. All right, that's it for today. Tomorrow we'll continue in chapter 38. Have a good day, Chavra, and a good week. And a good play.